Real joy will both fuel and sustain you on the way to fulfilling your kingdom journey. But have you been substituting a pseudo joy for the real thing, leaving you empty? Today we'll explore the substitutes for joy that may keep you from experiencing true relational joy. Short episodes to inspire and encourage you for the journey of your life. Welcome to your kingdom journey. Happiness and excitement are not joy. Real joy is the feeling you get when you're happy to see someone who's happy to be with you. And if that sounds new, please go back and listen to episodes 1 through 4 of this season for some foundation to what I'm going to talk about today. What might be masquerading as joy in your life? Real joy is a feeling that comes from exchanging glances, words, expressions with the one who's happy to see you. You know, like the other day when I met some girlfriends for lunch. As I entered the restaurant and I looked around for them, 3 hands shot up from the distant corner beckoning me with smiles on their faces. What do you think that did to my joy meter? It got full. Spending time together, sharing, laughing, crying even, it builds our joy capacity and increases our spiritual, emotional, and yes, physical health. But what if you're like me and sometimes you think joy is problem solving or solving a task, finishing a task? The other day I had to spend time, probably about an hour, to get a video to upload correctly, and I had to do a lot of research. Voila, I finally get it done. Oh, I think I'm filled with joy. But it's really not joy. It just is the feeling of relief that came from solving the problem. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not true joy. The problem for us is that we think something brings us joy when in fact it doesn't. There's no relational joy involved in researching on the internet or watching a YouTube video to solve a problem. On the other hand, if I was part of a team and we enjoyed working with each other and we had the chance to brainstorm a solution together, despite the problem, I could feel relational joy whether or not the problem was solved. But if the joy I refer to as real joy is to be sustainable for your kingdom journey as fuel and sustenance, it must be centered on Jesus. Without him, you will not find everlasting joy, and you might even miss out on fulfilling his purpose for your life. I explore this concept more fully too in those first 4 episodes, so please go back and watch. But we're going to begin to spend a few episodes on this idea of pseudo joy. What can become an unwanted traveling companion on your kingdom journey? So let's start by taking a look at the way you're wired. So now I'm talking about the personality profiles. You're probably familiar with one called DISC. It's involving whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, or a people-oriented or task-oriented. So the question I ask for you is there a personality type that might be more susceptible by being tricked or cheated out of real joy? So let's take a look. You've seen this graphic representing the DISC profile as a lion or an otter or a golden retriever or a beaver. Of course, everybody wants to be the golden retriever. But I promise I won't bore you because do you know there's literally 20,000 possible combinations out of those 4 categories? It's mind-boggling. But if real joy is the feeling you get when you're happy to be with someone, then it clearly involves other people. So what about that introverted, task-oriented person? How do they find relational joy? The feeling of joy is an emotion that's expressed in the right hemisphere of the brain. So while a task-oriented person might be firmly left-brained, logical, orderly, practical, it doesn't mean you can't find joy in the right hemisphere. So what might you be substituting for joy? Accomplishment, study, degrees, even workaholism, perhaps checking off another completed task. It's a marvelous feeling to accomplish something you've worked really hard for, but it's not the kind of joy we're talking about. Does that mean true joy eludes you and is only available to people-oriented others? I don't believe so. So how can you have it? Well, before I answer that question, let me add that even people-oriented extroverts like me can become a victim of pseudo joy too. For example, just today, I got caught up trying to improve my videotaping, lighting, sound, room layout, and before I knew it, an hour, probably two, went by, and I was pleased when I was done. I was happy with what I accomplished, and it put a smile on my face. But when I look over that experience, that's not what gave me true joy. You know what made true joy for me? The belly laughs I got when my husband got stuck under the desk that I had invited him in to help me move. I could have done it alone, but it's so much more fun to have him with me. So the introverted, task-oriented person must take deliberate steps to incorporate the right brain activities to awaken relational joy. Our right brain is the center of our emotions. It's where we feel joy. As I've said before, I can't choose to feel joy, but I can choose an activity or an action that I know will lead to joy. Do you know which segment of people on the disc profile who naturally have relational joy figured out? Well, it'd be like my mother-in-law. She was an S, sensitive, stable type. She just loved joy. And so here's an example. When she was getting ready with 8 ladies to have duplicate bridge at her house, cleaning, cooking, preparing, laying everything out, my husband and I dropped by unannounced. She had no problem saying, well, come on in, sit down, let's visit a few minutes. It would shock me, because if it were me, I would have said, oh, guys, I'm so busy right now. Could you please come back? I love you, so happy to see you, but I'm too busy. So my dear introverted, task-oriented friend, you might think you find joy in watching a movie, painting even, walking in the woods. But while those activities are enjoyable, ask yourself, how can they become a relational experience when you're all alone? What you think about is pretty important. So who are you thinking about? What are you thinking about? Are you thinking good thoughts, pleasant thoughts, or rehashing old hurts? You see, on the right side of your brain is where you can think of good things, happy things, people you love, and past joyful experiences, and it will stimulate the feelings all over again. You'll know again when you sit and meditate on God's love for you. Joy will flood your right brain with those feel-good chemicals of serotonin and dopamine. They flood your body with peace and comfort. So here's a little action step you can take. Start by creating a gratitude journal. Every night before you fall asleep, or every morning when you wake up, whichever you prefer, write down at least one thing you're grateful for, something you really appreciate, and give thanks to God. You are taking steps to find real joy, because as you do that, you are stirring up appreciation, releasing those chemicals, and stimulating that joy center of your brain. And by the way, mark your calendars for the week of September 20th. I'll be offering another free 5-day challenge. This time it's called Find Real Joy. And you can sign up at findrealjoy.com. Sign up is required. So, my dear friends, I bless you with finding real joy. I bless you with becoming aware of what's stealing your joy or masquerading as joy in your life, keeping you from the real relational joy that will sustain you and fuel you for your kingdom journey. So I bless you in Jesus' name.